Are you ready to find out the different types of AI assistants that I use myself as a business owner and an AI consultant? In this video, I'm going to give you guys the different types of assistants that I have on my roster, basically on ChatGPT and using Taskade and Make.com as well, that just make my life a little bit easier, and of course then makes my own assistant's life a little bit easier. And if you're curious about how to create these AI assistants on your own, I do have videos on my YouTube channel, or you can of course hop on a call with me and we can go through what kind of AI assistants we can create for your business. Now, the first one, and this is the one that I use the most, is a content creator AI assistant. So for me, I create a lot of content on here, whether it is for YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else basically that I create content for. And a lot of times I will actually run out of ideas, and that has happened to me too many times. And before AI, I would bang my head against the wall and try to figure out what kind of content I can create for that day. And with ChatGPT, I basically created this AI assistant that whenever I'm stuck, it basically helps generate questions that I can ask myself on what other content I can create. In fact, for this YouTube video, I was like, what kind of content can I create on different AI assistants? I'm like, hey, why not talk about the different AI assistants that you currently have? So it gives me kind of a soundboard on just ideas I can create or content that people would probably want to have or want to watch, basically. So that is the first one. Next is a content writer assistant. So anytime I have the idea already, I write out my first draft of hey, I'm thinking something like this. How can I improve this? How can I make this better? How can I make it Twitter friendly or Facebook friendly or wherever platform I'm using it for? So it makes it easy for me to repurpose when it's my own original content. And of course, for my own assistant, she uses a content writer AI assistant that's trained on my voice. So even if I'm not actually there, she is still able to create content as me. A lot of the posts on my LinkedIn or Instagram are actually really her. So we've kind of have this extension of how I write with a writer assistant with AI. Next is an email responder assistant. This one is super straightforward. It's basically trained on how I would usually respond to emails. I gave it different examples when it comes to things like onboarding clients or common questions from clients or emails from employees, how to respond to those. I gave it basically the last 5 years of running my own business, the ways that I would give a really good response to people and what I see as good response and a bad response. And now a lot of the time when I am out of office, my assistant can actually go ahead and copy an email that she receives, runs it through this AI writer assistant that we have, and it goes ahead and gives out a possible response that I would give. She would of course edit it before sending it out to whoever that person is. So it makes that part of writing a really good email in your voice with the structure that you like just a little bit easier, just because AI already is trained up on how you would respond anyway. Next is a business dashboard assistant. This one is relatively new, but this is, for example, for me as a business owner, I really want to see our numbers. I really want to see where we're going, and I will have different variations of business dashboards depending on where I want to look. So for example, for marketing, we have a dashboard for that. For operations, for sales, for leads, we have different dashboards for it. And for me, I like to play around on how I can make the data look in certain ways depending on what I want to look at. And honestly, ChatGPT has been such a big help on finding out what formula I should use or what data I can optimize. It's basically kind of like having a consultant in my pocket of hey, you should look at these numbers, and it really helps with kind of just giving myself clarity and of course my team clarity on what to focus on next. Next is just an email newsletter writer assistant. So for me, I have started essentially for this November a weekly newsletter for people who want to work remotely. I got started with AI. It's basically just called Lean Newsletter, and I again will sometimes run out of ideas or would just need a little bit of tweaking or refining on a content I already have written out. And with AI, basically with my newsletter writer that has been trained with how I write, with how I think, it can basically kind of just finalize what I've created to make it fit essentially the voice and the kind of newsletter that I'm trying to create. So just makes that process a little bit easier as well. Next is an SOP writer, or a standard operating procedure writer. This helps me a lot when it comes to creating new systems. Whenever I get a lot of really good ideas of hey, what if we try this one on the business, or what if we modify this? And it makes it easier for me as a business owner and for the rest of my team, because everyone in my team has access to this to be able to document and create actual checklists or systems of how they do certain things. So it's out of their head. They're not the only ones who know how to do this process. And again, it just makes it a little bit easier for us to collaborate, to train other people on how to do certain tasks or processes and systems because we have the SOP written out for it. Next is a policy creator assistant. Now, a lot of the time I will have ideas of like, hey, I want to improve or add this part of the system to 2XU. I want to turn it into a policy. I basically just have a policy writer of anytime I have an idea like, hey, this is the goal, this is where we're at. Can you create a policy that would bridge essentially where we're at and where I want to be so that it's a little bit easier to implement? And I would even ask it like, hey, give me an implementation plan of how this can actually happen within my business. And honestly, it just makes the whole process a little bit easier versus before AI, where when I was creating policies, I would have to do a ton of research on other companies, on how they're doing it, kind of get influenced by their own culture, even though it's not a match for what I'm trying to create with 2XU. So this one is custom to, knows our values, knows the goals for 2XU, knows our vision and mission, knows that we want to support a lot of amazing entrepreneurs with an amazing executive assistant. So it just makes the process of having a custom policy written for us because it matches what we want, where we want to go anyway. Next is a proposal writer assistant. Basically, as an AI consultant, basically, I want to always create a very custom proposal for potential clients of ours of like, hey, this is the kind of assistant we can create for you. And on the flip side on that for 2XU, whenever I just hopped on a call with a possible client for an executive assistant, my own assistant will also then create the proposal for them. So this has kind of made that process a little bit more streamlined because the AI assistant is trained on how the format basically for the proposal would look like, knows how to customize it, especially for the client, knows how to make it look good as well. So then all we have to do is we have a Notion page or a Canva template that we use for either proposals basically, and it's easier for us to just present it in a very visual way for our potential clients. Again, kind of makes it a little bit easier for us to be able to get that done and get it sent to them within like 6 hours after a call. Next is a pitch writer assistant, and this is something that I use a lot as a speaker. Is I will pitch myself to speak at an event, or I will also then use the pitch writer assistant to introduce myself as an event, kind of as a good little like, hey, this is what AI can do for you in your business. So for me, I just have my information loaded up on ChatGPT, and anytime that, hey, I'm speaking at this event, here's the page, this is what I want to pitch. It basically just gives me the email format already that I like. Same thing for introducing me as a speaker, is it already knows the format of like, hey, this is Lacaba. She is an AI consultant and co-founder of 2XU, blah, 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 blah. It already has the information that it needs to pitch me or to introduce me as a speaker as well. And I have a couple of videos showing that basically. It's always a cool thing to do, especially when I'm about to talk about AI. And lastly, and this one is just for fun, is a trivia creator AI assistant. So in 2XU, part of our culture is every single Friday basically is we have a game for different people to be able to join and be able to do. And one of them typically is trivia. So I'll ask ChatGPT to give me like questions on different categories for the trivia that we're doing for that weekend. Again, just makes my life a little bit easier. I do double check if the trivia is correct, but it just makes a little bit easier rather than researching 30 websites on what trivia to put onto the questionnaire. Now, there are going to be a ton of different types of AIs you can do. I do have a whole playlist that you guys can study and go the rabbit hole. Those are just the ones that I use myself every single day without fail, just because, trying to run 2XU and build up Create AI at the same time has been a balancing act. And basically AI assistants have just made it a little bit easier for me to do that balancing act. Now, if you guys liked this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. Comment below what kind of AI assistant would you want to create if you could. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out through the playlist right here and the latest video right here. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!